So, meantime, I will say to all of you good morning or good evening, depending where you are located. Thank you very much for being with us. I know that for some of us, you are connected in a challenging time. You know, we are located in Italy, so we are aware of all the issues we are experiencing in those days. I hope you are all wealthy, and best wishes to all of you. Thank you very much for being here today. My name is Fabio Croci. I am the project manager of Skillman. I am connected today with some of my colleagues, and I will ask to Valentina De Vico, which is our communication manager, to make a short introduction and to present the aims of this webinar. Please, Valentina.
Sure. I hope you can all see my screen that I'm sharing with you all. So again, thank you very much for joining today's webinar, which is the first online webinar on EU funds opportunities. This one is specifically on capacity building in higher education 2021. My name is Valentina De Vico. I got in touch with all of you for the purpose of this webinar. I'm the communication manager. And I'm going to be hosting the webinar today with my colleagues, Mr. Giovanni Crisona, who is connected. Hi, Giovanni. He's the president of the Skillman team. Hello. And Fabio Croci, who is the project manager of Skillman, who just was speaking right now. So before giving the floor to my colleague Fabio Croci, I'm just going to give you a small introduction and a quick overview of what is Skillman and what we're doing. So basically, Skillman is an international network of TVET providers, universities, industries, individuals, and policymakers that focuses on skills research and training in the advanced manufacturing sector. Its main aim is to introduce and exchange skills to provide innovative curricula for the advanced manufacturing sector, and to also facilitate cross-networking activities with our international members. The network was created and established in 2014, but since then it's been growing exponentially, actually, and nowadays we have more than 500 active members within our network. Actually, they are around 550, and they come from 84 different countries, also outside of Europe. And we have been engaging this network together with a partnership of organizations, as you see in the screen. We have IVETA, who is also connected today. Julian is with us today. IVETA is the International Vocational Education and Training Association. Then we have Cumulus, the International Association of Universities and Colleges of Arts and Design. And EAPRIL, the European Association for Practitioner Research on Improving Learning. And together with them, we have been leading the SkillNet project, a KA3 project, a K Action 3 project, co-funded by the European Commission, that has the ultimate strategy to develop a large network of centers of vocational excellence. It started in 2019, and it would run through until 2021. Now, within this framework of time and under the framework of Skillman, we are organizing and we've been designing a series of activities and events to engage our community of members. One of these is the establishment of the peer learning clubs, who are focus groups that are meeting regularly to discuss different topics. So far we have set up 4 peer learning clubs. Each of them is discussing different topics, and they meet regularly to exchange information and to carry out activities on this. Another kind of event that we are organizing are the 2 international conferences that will attract a bigger crowd of international experts. Then, of course, Skillman's activities are also fully integrated with the European Vocational Skills Week, through innovation cafes, preparatory seminars, etc. And then we're expected by the project to organize some webinars in the period of 2020-2021. So today's webinar belongs to a series of webinars that are going to be 18 webinars on EU funds opportunities. and we will organize those webinars with the aim of establishing effective partnerships and design successful proposals for future project calls that fall into the European framework. Now I'm going to give the floor to Fabio Croci to start with the content of the webinar. If you have any questions or anything at all, we can get in touch later and talk about it later. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Valentina. Thank you very much for your introduction. I will ask you to give me the presentation mode, to mute yourself, otherwise we have background noises coming back from the mic.
Of course, just hold on a second.
Thank you. As my colleague has already introduced, so this is the aim of the webinar, to create a group of potentially interested organizations to attend some of the Erasmus Plus calls under the Erasmus Plus program. Just a second, I will get this presentation mode so that I can present to you everything. Okay. Valentina, can you see my screen now? Okay, good. I hear a noise in the background. Okay, very good. Thank you, Valentina. So, as I was saying, we are trying to create a team of persons coming from the organizations eligible for the higher education sector under the Erasmus Plus program. I will introduce everything in details after a very quick overview of the funding opportunities under the Erasmus Plus program, because of course we are connected not only from European countries, we are connected also from countries outside Europe. So today we are going to focus on those opportunities which are eligible also for so-called partner countries coming from other regions of the world, and I will give you some guidance on how to understand where you are eligible and for which kind of call. First of all, let's clarify what is the higher education according to the Erasmus Plus program. Higher education is focusing on what we call the universities level. So there is this framework in the European program, which is the EQF, the European Qualification Framework. We are talking about the Erasmus. Sorry, I have a message. I forgot to introduce Julian. Maybe before starting the presentation, we will give the floor to Julian if you are connected. Julian is the Vice President of IVITA, which is the other organization we are working together with Skillman for the engagement of vocational educational training groups. Julian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello, Julian. Sorry, I
Hi.
forgot to give you the microphone to short welcome.
It's all right. Hi, everybody. I am the Vice President for the European region of IVETA, and we are a members-based organization focused on promoting and enhancing TVET across the world, but for my sector, particularly for Europe. So thank you for that opportunity, Fabio. We're also one of the members of the SkillNet Alliance. So thank you all very much for participating today, and hopefully you can help us make this project a success as we keep developing vocational education and training in Europe. Thanks, Fabio.
Microphone, Fabio is off.
Fabio, turn on the microphone.
Trying. Can you hear me now? Sorry. I was saying thank you very much, Julian. Of course, you can interrupt me in any moment, not only because, as you have said, you are a representative of your organization, but also because we know you are a very strong professional in this kind of call that I'm going to present. So anyway, your contribution is welcome. So as I was saying, the aim of this webinar is to present these kind of opportunities, focusing on higher education. We know that the presentation, the design of successful proposals is really time-consuming. So what we are going to present today is to address the calls which are coming in the coming months, even in the first months of 2021. We strongly believe that in-depth analysis of the needs, of the requirements, of the aims of each organization is the best way to address all the aims of the calls and to prepare successful proposals. So what we are going to do now is to present the forthcoming calls, which have not been yet published, but based upon our previous experience and about the work programs of the European Union, we are already aware that those calls will be published in the forthcoming months and the beginning of 2021. So these webinars aim to give to all of us an opportunity to work together to present, as I was saying, successful opportunities. Before I was trying to introduce the fact that we are here addressing the higher education qualification framework, so the university sector. There is this AQF system from the European Commission. You can double check by yourself to try to understand which kind of level of studies we can address under one of this call, which is named Capacity for Higher Education. But let me first of all introduce to you this website, which is the official website from the Educational Division and Cultural Agency from the European Commission, which is the office in charge for the Erasmus Plus funding. You will notice that there is this page which is named funding, where you can find all the open and closed call for grants. There are only a couple of them open right now, but you will see a very long list of past opportunities. As I was saying, not all those opportunities are open to all the countries in the world. Usually you are accepted as an associate partner, meaning without budget also from the external countries. But to have some budget inside the Erasmus Plus funding, you need to focus on very specific calls. I'm going to present today the so-called Capacity for Higher Education, which is one of the main calls for the higher education system. Let me focus on this document. This is the official Erasmus Plus program guide. Starting from the very beginning, you will find an index in which there are a lot of instruments. This guide and all the documents I'm going to show to you can be found also in our Basecamp workspace. We have prepared under Skillman a specific workspace in which we will be able to cooperate all together, to share ideas, to share documents, and to build together the common proposal. This is the workspace. You will see that there are a few tools. In the Skillman forum, I have already published some direct link to the document I'm going to show to you. You can also find a common repository in which you will be able to access to some of the first folders I've created, and particularly the past closed call under CDHA, so the Capacity for Higher Education, to give you some hint about which are the topics, the eligible countries, and the budget available for those kind of activities. You will have access to this folder as soon as we will end this webinar, and then we will build the team to co-design a forthcoming capacity building proposal. Let me go back to the Erasmus program guide. I was saying that there are different calls which are published by the European Commission. You will see in this part B information about the actions, that there are different key action 1, key action 2, key action 3. We are not going to talk about key action 1. Key action 1 is aimed to the Erasmus Plus exchanges of individuals. students, teachers, staff who travels across countries to better improve and to learn and whatever. But this is not the scope of this presentation, and we are not going to go in deep on this particular activity. We are going to move to the key action 2. Under key action 2, I'm going to zoom, you will see different activities, different frameworks. The strategic partnership in the field of education, training and youth. This is particularly connected to European countries. We're not going to talk about this, as well about European universities, because as the name itself says, this is focusing only on eligible countries from the European Union. What we are going to talk in our webinar today is the capacity building in the field of higher education. We will also have another webinar focusing on knowledge alliances. Both of those calls are open also to other countries, other than the European 27 countries. Where you can find this information? Well, for each of these calls, you will see that if you go page 160, you will find, okay, the introduction, blah, blah. You will find a lot of information. Then you will notice that there is which are the criteria used to assess capacity building project. Eligible criteria. You will find that there is in this box, the first information is which are the eligible partner countries. This is the very first step you have directly to check, so that you can double check if your country is eligible under this call. And for each call you have different criteria, of course. Here we are under the capacity building for higher education. You will see that you have to belong to regions 1 to 4 and 6 to 11. Where are we going to find this information? And we go back to the summary, to the table of contents. You will find here who can participate in the Erasmus Plus program, participants and eligible countries. You will go to this page 22, and you will find, well, first of all, the program countries. Program countries are always eligible. They are the member states of the European Union and the not yet European member of the European Union, but so-called program countries, which are neighboring the European Union. Then you have the partner countries, and a long list of countries starts, as you have seen, for instance, in the capacity building for higher education. You can be eligible if you are under the region from 1 to 4. So this first box, you will find several countries. And then under the capacity for higher education, if you are under the region from 6 to 11. So if you are under one of those countries, you are eligible. For instance, you are not eligible in this specific call if you are under region 5, so Andorra, Monaco, San Marino, Vatican State, and region 12, Beirut, Kuwait, etc., etc., and then some other countries. You will notice that under region 11, so there is a very big list of countries. Unfortunately, under the capacity building for higher education, you are not eligible for region 13 and region 14, but particularly for region 13. For instance, if you are in Hong Kong, unfortunately under the capacity for higher education, you are not eligible. You will be eligible for other calls, but you are eligible if you are under China, because China is under, let me region 6 from Asia. Anyway, this is the main source to understand if you are eligible under those calls. As I was saying before, it depends from which kind of call. So, for instance, under coming back to the table of contents, if you are under knowledge alliances and you do the same under knowledge alliances, you will find different criteria to be eligible in terms of countries. For instance, if you are here, sorry, I went so too far. Who can apply? Who can apply? Participate in program countries or in any partner country of the world. So in this case, under knowledge alliances, you don't have any limitations in terms of regions. And for instance, Hong Kong is eligible, and again, China is eligible, just an example. Having said so, then you will see that there are a lot of criteria to access to this kind of information, and all those calls, even if they accept countries from other countries than Europe, will have specific criteria in terms of composition of the network. For instance, you have to be lead applicant from one European country, and then you have to ensure, for instance, at least, let's say, 3 countries from Europe or non-Europe countries. Any kind of eligibility must be double-checked. In this case, as I was saying, the capacity in the field of higher education is not yet published in terms of the forthcoming calls, but we can go back to the previous calls to better understand if they are already planned in the past versions, and of course there can be minor changing from one code to another, but in terms of main framework, most of the time it will be confirmed. So say that you will find in our Basecamp shared area, and again, this is the common repository you can use, and you will find all the documentations, also the presentations and the recording of this webinar. You will find the closed call. You can access directly in our Basecamp common workspace, but I have only imported the main documents. If you want to take a look to all the documentation, you will go back to the main site of the European Commission. You will filter the actions under capacity building for higher education, and you will find also the past calls, the closed calls. For instance, the first one is the call of the 2020, and you will find a lot of information. What we are trying to do here is to simplify everything, but you will find that there are there is a huge documentation to analyze, so we will have time to go back to all those documents. Now I'm going to focus on the very specific aim of the call and what you have to take care to better understand if you are eligible. First of all, I was saying that you have to be in higher education. For the European countries, it is important also to understand that to access the calls for higher education under Erasmus Plus program, you also have to hold this Erasmus Charter for Higher Education. This applies only for European countries. You will find this call, which is already open. It will be closed by the 26th of May. The Erasmus Charter for Higher Education is some kind, let's say it's an accreditation to allow the higher education institution also to access the mobility of Erasmus Plus students and teachers. This will bring to another website, which is the funding and tender portal. Not all the calls are published under the funding and tender portals, so you will find some calls under this website and other under this other website, which is merging together different programs. You will find also Horizon and other kind of call for tenders and call for grants. This is the web page in which you will find information for the accreditation for the Erasmus Charter for Higher Education. You will find 2 different procedures, the full procedure and the live procedure, depending if you have been already accredited in past years. If you have already accredited, you will have a live procedures. Otherwise, you will make your full procedures. This is an eligibility requirement for the higher education in a capacity building partnership if they are located in Europe. Otherwise, you will find other criteria. You better have to take a look to the specific aims of the call. The call, as I was saying, is not yet published. You will find information in the Erasmus Plus guide, as I was showing to you. You will find the document with all the information in this web page, named the Program Guide. Please be aware of the fact that you have access both of the last version and the previous versions. So there are all the past versions in the other years in the past. But of course, if you want to take a look to the last criteria, you will access to the program guide. Be aware that a new version will be published probably in the second half of this year, once that the new work program will be set by the European Commission. Let's have a look to the contents of the capacity building for higher education. We were saying that there are different regions, and those regions bring to a different allocation of budget and of topics to be covered. This is the Call for Proposal 2020. You can recognize the regions I was mentioning before. So as you can see, these are the same regions we were looking at in the other document. And there is an allocation of projects and a number of expected projects by the European Commission to be funded. This was in the Call 2020. Of course, these kind of numbers can be changed in the forthcoming calls, but we can see that there are totally different opportunities depending on in which region you are located. We also have the opportunity to take a look to the results from the 2019 call, according to which we have a different success case depending on the regions you are in. This is a very important and interesting table. You can see that according to the call in 2019, there were higher opportunities if you were located in Asia, and very low opportunities if you were located in some other regions, like you can see here in Russian Federation. As I was saying before, the allocation of budget can change each year, but this is a starting point to better understand the possibility to get funded. The 2019 results have been already published. You will find those documents also in the repository of Skillman. You will see the long list of the funded program. You can also have an idea of the grant, which is up to 1 million euros, but the idea of the grant and already involved university in the past calls. The call of the 2020, of course, has not yet been published, not only because of the lockdown, but because the assessment evaluation, the capacity of higher education takes a long time. So usually you will have the results in the second half of the year. But anyway, this is a starting point to better understand which are the opportunities. Then you have the specific priorities set by the European Commission. They have set specific priorities, so-called national cross-cutting priorities, in joint and structural projects. I'm not going to go in details, but let's say that the joint, the structural projects are the ones involving public administration, so that you want to address also reform or modernization of their framework for qualification in higher education. Otherwise, if you make joint projects, meaning putting together only universities and providers of vocational of higher education, you will make a joint project to better improve specific curricula, specific path of studies, join together frameworks from the European Commission, from the European countries and the external countries. So in this big table, again, each year can be edited. You will find the so-called cross-cutting priorities, which can change depending on the countries. So let's say we want to make something in Jordan. You will find that in Jordan you have several peaks in the columns which corresponds to different priorities. For instance, they want to give a priority to governance, strategy, planning and management for higher education institutions, and then you will have other priorities depending on the country. This kind of box has been maintained in the past years. What changed are the peak box, of course. So you have to double check your country in which kind of sectors can be involved. The first important column, let's say the orange one, is the curriculum development, which is only for the joint projects, when you want to develop or to update existing curricula in a European way in terms of which kind of composition of the curriculum, of objectives of the curriculum you want to merge together with your forces with European countries. You have a list of those sectors. So again, in Jordan, you have to target those sectors. This is something that can change each year. So you will have different sectors depending on each call. You have to double check it, and of course you have to find specific sectors in which you are eligible. If the sector is not listed here and you are in this country, for this call you will not be eligible. Maybe the next year, but not for the 2020 in this case. There are also regional cross priorities, because not all the countries are listed here. So if you don't find your country in this list under the national priorities, means that the European Commission set regional priorities, wider priorities. So for instance, if you are in Central Asia and you are in one of those countries, you are not going to find yourself in the other list. You are also going to find here in this list, and all those sectors and priorities applies for all the region number 7. These are the main documents in which you can find the general frameworks and general priorities. I'm going to show you something more specific in order to better understand which is the job we have to do together once that we have find our sector, our regions, and whatever. There are different documents to be filled. I'm not going to talk about the budget or about the hard data of your organization. This is something that, of course, you can understand must be analyzed. But the main document a team has to work, like in every call of the Erasmus Plus program, is the detailed description of the project. This is the main document. Every team has to work for a lot of many days, and in this case I have opened the joint project template, not the structural one. You will see that there are some common parts which are common to all the calls for grants from the Erasmus Plus program, and then there is one specific part that we are going to analyze for the capacity building for higher education. So I'm going to show you in a very quick manner the first parts, which are, let's say, quite classical parts. You know, how is the consortium done, which are the aims and the objectives, and a lot of general information, which are very important today to have a good assessment from the European Commission. But anyway, this is something that you can easily understand in terms of which kind of information we have to put. Of course, you have to work together with your partners in order to better assess which are the requirements and the assessment criteria, but these are common parts which we can skip. There is a logical framework matrix. I will ask also by the end of my presentation to Giovanni Crisonara, which is a very experienced project designer, this kind of call. This is specific for the capacity for higher education. We will go back to this by the end. Then you have a work plan. The work plan is the description of all the activities and tasks and deliverables foreseen by your proposals to be not only put in this grid, but also, let's go on, also in details in this section, the work packages. So for each work package, you have to better describe any kind of information. Also in terms of tasks and deliverables among partners. This is, again, very important, but this is a common section for all the call for grants in the European call for grants for the Erasmus Plus project. Finally, we have the most important part, which is the part in which we have to describe the quality of the project team and cooperation arrangements. In the other calls, this is not this is a common part which has no more information than these first sections. But, and here is the detail I want to give to you, you have in the capacity building for higher education, the organizations and activities. I would say this is even the starting point for any kind of partnership on the capacity building for higher education. Because for each partner, other than European countries, you will have to provide information, of course, of your organization, of how you are organized, which kind of curriculum do you offer, but also, and this is even the most important part, this section F33, which is the curriculum development project, meaning that we have to start to design any kind of capacity building for higher education proposal. You have to start from the existing situation or the expected situation. You will see that you have two sections, for new courses or for updated courses. You can choose. You have already existing courses inside your higher education institutes, and you want to improve them thanks to the cooperation with other partners. Or you want to start a new courses. It's up to you. There are no different criteria from the European Commission, but this very little box you see here can be very long in terms of all the information you want to give. This is something that must be very well defined and described according to the kind of credits that you can have by the end of this curriculum, the contents, the program, which kind of staff must be trained, which kind of students can be accepted inside these kind of courses. And for all the partners other than European countries involved in the project, you have to describe very well the situation. And this is repeated for each partner. So each partner must assess the existing situation in terms of curriculum, the desired courses, and all the data useful for. In other section of the proposal, you also have to justify why you want to focus on this particular curriculum in terms, for example, of data from the labor market, or the mobility of students existing and foreseen mobility, the opportunities of the specific market. You have to provide context analysis of which are the expected outcomes in the labor market. This is also required for the other section, which is if you want to target the modernization, government, management, and functioning of higher education institutes, the acronym HEI is the higher institutions, higher education institutions. You remember that in the regional priorities, you also can target the modernization of governance of your institution. If this is one of the aims you want to target, you also have to provide information about the existing situation and the expected situation. So say that this section, the F section, is probably the starting point, and I will propose to the team to start from this kind of sheet to sharing our common workspace to start to analyze together which are the opportunities for each of our institutions. But as I was saying, if Giovanni is connected, Giovanni Tizena, maybe you can give to us some feedback about what I said before in terms of the logical framework matrix and the correct approach for a project design for this kind of co-design. Giovanni, are you connected?
Yes.
Hello, Giovanni.
Yes. You see me?
You remember? Yes,
Fabio, sorry to interrupt. Someone is asking in the chat if it's possible to zoom in the document so they can see it better.
Yes, sorry. Sorry, Giovanni, I was asking your contribution only for this aspect. If you remember, we have already developed a logic of yeah. Yes, Giovanni.
Okay, because I was answering, but seems that you were not listening to me. Thank you very much, Fabio, for this fabulous introduction. You show capacity and competence that is impressive. Thank you to everybody to take part. And thank you to ask me for some comment about the log frame matrix. Honestly, I was not prepared to answer to this, but I think I have some idea that can be useful. As we know, this tool is a systematic planning approach, and so for this I like this approach. For a complete project management cycle, that means that include the possibility to discuss and to share among the partners that are going to propose the project, the whole situation, and in terms of resources, circumstances, everything that is to be faced in the project proposal design, and about the criteria that we can share for project success, and the major assumptions that we have to consider to make the project. So for this, I think that the tool is very useful. It was a tool that was started in the 60s. In the United States, UZ, I think, created this tool in the beginning, but then it entered in the world of the cooperation. And then I see that this matrix is appeared in the templates of the European Commission in the last years. So we started to be more involved in application of the matrix, because we did a lot of applications, even within the Skillman team. And I think that the application of the tool is very helpful to make a strong partnership. So the idea to start from the matrix, to share the principles and the ideas, and then to build the proposal on the result of this matrix application process, I think is very good. The logical framework put in one table the activities. So you start thinking the small concrete steps that you want to do, then what outputs you want to get from these activities, then which purposes you can reach applying or deploying these activities, and which goals can fit in the call that you are considering. So this logical thinking help to understand if your activities fits in the goals that the Commission established. I don't know if you expect that I go more deep in the topic. I can continue.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Giovanni. This is, of course, enough. Thank you for your contribution. Sorry for your unexpected...
One thing to close. Yeah. I think that the log frame matrix, the logical framework, is a participatory tool, and these reflect the approach of the Skillman network. So we want to propose a participatory process involving partners, and all these webinars that you have planned, I think, fit perfectly with this idea and support our process to involve in an active manner all the Skillman members, to have a participatory planning and to have a participatory deployment to reach the end of the project proposal design process in a common way, having a common view on the problems that we want to face, and being sure in this way that our support as stakeholders in the regards of the European Commission take in consideration all the participants' contribution is not just an idea in the mind of the project designer, but is something that is built together among all the participant partners and allow, I mean, the logical framework matrix approach and application, and allow at the end to have assume of the key features that our actions want implement in regard to the call that we are taking in analysis.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. Really, thank you. Coming back to, let's say, to the main aspects to take care before starting to cooperate together, I will remind the first basic informations you should address. Please also, because we are approaching to the end of this webinar, do not hesitate to make any question in the chat box, so we can start to collect your questions. Of course, we will have time also to answer through our workspace, or share the workspace, but anyway, the first information I would like to recommend to you to take care of, starting from the higher education. Of course, you have to double check if you are eligible for higher education. If you're not, of course, don't worry, probably you will be eligible for other courses and other frameworks. We will invite you in other room, in other workspace, if you're not eligible for the higher education. Just take a look to the European Qualification Framework. This is from Wikipedia, but then you will have, of course, other sources. Only take care of the AQF. When we are talking about the higher education, we are talking about the level 6 and above, 6, 7, 8. You have some main description. Basically, it is, again, university level. If you are doing vocational training activities or school activities, you are under the other levels. For instance, when you have the call for proposal for the Erasmus Plus program, we are usually addressing levels 3, 4, and 5. These are other calls for proposals. We will address these levels in other webinars. This one is focusing on level 6, 7, and 8. Then, as we were saying before, you have to find yourself in the list of eligible regions according to the national and regional priorities. So you will have also to find yourself in sectors and in specific criteria. Only take care to the fact that, again, this is related to the past course. Some minor changes can be done in the future. And of course, until we don't have the publication of the work program by the European Commission, we won't be able to tell anything more. We will have to wait usually the beginning of autumn. So in the months of September or October, we will find the news about the forthcoming course and more details. But anyway, the list of the regions is done. So first of all, you have to find under the Erasmus Plus program, again, you will find the eligible countries in this main document. You will have to find yourself for the capacity of higher education under the region from 1 to 4 and from 6 to 11. As I was saying, we are going also to address other calls in other webinars. So coming back to the main page of the European Commission for the Erasmus Plus program, remember that there are also other key action 2 and key action 3, which can be addressed by other entities. The only issue is related to the extension to countries outside the Erasmus, the European Union. So if you are outside the European Union, probably you will be interested also to attend a forthcoming webinar we will have on knowledge alliances. But knowledge alliances are specifically focused on sectors, on specific area. So we are going to manage different webinars according to the area relevant for your sector. For instance, we have already planned a webinar in June for the naval sector, meaning the building of yachts and of boats and any kind of technology involved in the maritime sectors for this kind of activities. This is one of the forthcoming groups under the Skillman network for a co-design of proposal under the Knowledge Alliances. Other can emerge. Of course, you will be asked also to propose your idea, and this shared workspace will be also useful to approach new idea you have in mind. Of course, we are starting with a capacity building for higher education proposal, but we can also split it in more groups. For instance, if we will see that there are different regions that want to address together with Skillman this call, we will, for instance, divide the group in Skillman CDHA for Asia and another one for Africa. And we will have all the opportunities to focus, to better focus in our specific co-design. These kind of activities are not connected in this webinar. We will have to work together in the forthcoming months, so please stay tuned on the Skillman news that our communication office and our manager Valentina De Vico will present in all the newsletters and the mailing that she's managing. Thank you very much, Valentina, for this. I'm going to end to speak now because I want to listen also if you have any feedback and any question. I see that in the chat box there are some main questions. Maybe Valentina, you can try to read something if you already have some questions, or if you want to add something about the forthcoming communication activities.
Okay, so first of all, let's dedicate this time now to ask and answer questions. Silvia Liuti is asking, we as accredited vet provider have designed and carried out post-laureate vocational training courses under ESF funded project. Are we eligible in the higher education sector?
Okay, thank you for the question. This is something that you will double check in the Erasmus Plus guide. So the first answer to your question is where we can find this information. Let me show it to you. In the Erasmus Plus program guide, I'm going back to the content table, you will find different parts. We have said the part A is generally about the general information. The part B is the information about the action, and in those boxes you will find the criteria. Then you have a very important part, which is the glossary of terms, the Annex 3. So, for instance, if you want to double check which is the definition of the higher education, you will have to take a look to the glossary of terms. And now I am stuck with my computer, so I'm not sure that I will be able. Yes, I am. So, for instance, here you have the Erasmus Charter for Higher Education, blah, blah. Let's go on. Here we are. So, higher education institution. This is the official definition for the European Commission. So, if you are under this kind of definition, you are allowed. If it is not clear, if you are under this definition, you have to ask to the European Commission. They have an email. They are quite quick to answer. So usually, if you ask something during the opening time of the call, they will answer in a very effective manner. But usually, they say you have to take care for the national law and regional regulations to understand if you are in higher education. So according to your questions, it is not directly for me understandable if you are eligible or not. We have to double check your kind of institution, which kind of degrees you provide according to the national framework you are in. So in your country, is what you are providing considered a higher education level? If yes, probably you are eligible. You need to have the confirmation going through this program guide and asking directly the European Commission. Of course, we can discuss it better in the Basecamp workspace we have prepared, So this kind of questions will be useful to share in our common workspace. Until now, let's say that you should better check the Erasmus guide to understand if you are eligible according to this course.
Fabio, can I just say something? Can you go to page... please go to page 163 of the guide, because that will probably give you a clearer idea of who can participate in the project. If you go to the, if you go below, just keep going down. The page actually has to say 163. Oh, there you go. Eligible participating organizations. If you scroll to the next page, you will see that there are two types of organizations. The first type, as it says, is any public or private organization defined as higher education institution, or any public or private organization with its affiliated entities active in the labor market or in the fields of education, training, or youth, for example. And that's where you can see all those types of organizations, including a school or institute or on any level from preschool to upper secondary education, including that. So I think Sylvia's question means that she could be eligible for higher education.
Yes, thank you very much, Julian. You are right. My answer was connected. Sorry, I didn't say an important detail. There are requirements for the partnership, and then there are requirements for the organization. When I was saying that we need higher education institutions, and in terms of university level, I was saying that we need at least one higher education or more education from each country. Remember last year in Africa, the call in which at least 2 higher education must be located in the country, so we had 2 higher institutions from each of these countries. Then you can add other eligible institutions, of course, and you can also involve VET providers which are not higher education. But to target the minimum requirements, the European Commission will count only the higher education in a strict term. Then, of course, you can be eligible and you can set partnerships in your country with higher education if you want, for instance, to provide a management improvement from the vocational training level up to the higher level. Am I correct, Julian? Good, thank you. Very good. So I don't know, Valentina, if we have any other questions. Sorry, I was not monitoring the chat box.
No, so far I have no other questions here. If anyone else wants to add anything, now is the time.
Otherwise, Valentina, we can also say which are the next steps, meaning that we will send an invitation to the participants of the webinar and the one who have subscribed to this webinar to the Basecamp workspace. Of course, if you think that you are...
Then we will send all the materials that we have discussed during the webinar on Basecamp platform. So everything will be shared with every one of you. We will also send a recording of the webinar, and we will publish it on our YouTube account, the Skillman YouTube account, only reserved for the access only to the people who actually attended the meeting today. And then I think Fabio will coordinate the joint next steps as far as working together are concerned on the Basecamp platform. Is it correct, Fabio?
It is, yes, I will. And of course, we are going to share those informations also not only for Capacity for Education, but for the other webinars. Stay tuned. there has been already a call for the peer learning labs you were mentioning before. Valentina,
yes, I'm going.
Yeah, please go.
Do I have the grant of sharing my screen right now? Yes.
You can take back. Yep.
Okay. Just a second.
We can see your screen.
There you go. So I just want to show everybody that we will have some future events already planned for the next months, for the next days. Here is the website link that I'm going to send in the chat as well for everyone to be able to go on the website. Here we have a section called activities, so events and conferences, and here we have the future events list. So this is what I'm talking about. Here's the list with the future events. As we know, today, the 13th of May, we have the first webinar on the EU funds opportunities. And we will have a second webinar on the 17th of June. Is the second webinar on the EU funds opportunities. Here you also find a specific page about these kind of activities. So for each of them, you can see specifically all the details and information about each webinar. So you also know which ones are interesting for you and which ones are not. Also at the end of the page, you have the form to register to each event with just a few details. And the last thing I'm going to say about the events is that on the 28th of May, we are hosting the peer learning clubs, which are those small focus groups that I was mentioning before. We are going to have the first meeting of the 4 peer learning clubs, all of them in one day. So on 28th of May, and as you see, the schedules are written here in the list. So you are more than welcome to participate for each of those peer learning club. Of course, there's a different topic. And to get more information about the topics, again, in activities and events and conferences, here you have a page specifically dedicated on the peer learning clubs. So once you access the page on our website, you will have more detailed information about each of those peer learning clubs. As you can see here, this is the first one, this is the second, third, and fourth. You just click on the one that you are interested in, and you will get more information. Same thing here, if you scroll down the page, you will have the form that you have to fill in order to participate to the specific event. Okay, I would say that this is all I wanted to say.
Thank you. See, we have only planned until now online events due to the lockdown. In the very next future, we will be able also to ensure our on-site events. 2 international conferences are foreseen by the Skillman project. We don't have any agenda so far. We are waiting to better understand what will be the future of the physical events, but stay tuned on Skillman. We will have more and more activities to propose to all of you in order to ensure and to strengthen our networks and our cooperation. So I think that we are coming to an end. I don't have any other question. Maybe Giovanni, you want to say something to close?
Yeah, I would add to this very important presentation that Valentina did right now. Concerning the peer learning clubs, I'm making an announcement because we are going to close the collaboration with ETF, European Training Foundation, and one specific group will be constituted, will be composed around the digitalization topic. So this is a new information that will be added to the website in the next weeks, I think. Then there will be a selection of experts to compose this specific team, and it is expected to have maybe a physical event in November, and this will be held in collaboration with the European Training Foundation.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. I forgot also myself to say a very important thing, that you are not going to see in the actual list one event which will be published in forthcoming days. We are setting up a cooperation with the European Investment Fund, so we are going to present a new course from the European Investment Fund in the first weeks of June, which is the Skills and Education Guarantee Pilot. You will find more information on the EIF website, but again, stay tuned, because we are going to have this webinar together with the European Investment Fund. There will be two managers from the European Investment Fund presenting the opportunities for this forthcoming call. Well, not forthcoming, it is actually open, will be closed, if I remember correctly, in October. So we have time, and will be probably the first webinar or the second webinar we will organize on this topic. Again, the Skills and Education Guarantee Pilot. Stay tuned on Skillman. More and more news are coming. Thank you very much for your participation and for your
Thank you very much.
interest. I hope you find useful information in this webinar. Remember, the recording will be published, and you will find all the information on the website Skillman.eu. Again, thank you very much. Thanks also to our friend. Thanks, Julian, for your contribution. And see you next time on this webinar from Skillman.eu network. Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Before you all run away,
Sorry. Yeah, Julian.
Please complete the webinar evaluation. The link I've already pasted on the chat. Please. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Julian. Yes, I didn't notice it. So in the chat box, you will find, yes, please remember to help us evaluate this webinar. Thank you, Julian, for your contribution. Again, goodbye to everybody.
Thank you very much.
Keep in touch, everybody.
Ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.